Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has led his Liberal Party to victory in Canada's pivotal election. Speaking to supporters following his win, Carney warned the relationship with the United States will not be the same.
Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The system of open global trade anchored by the United States, a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped deliver prosperity for a country for decades, is over.
Carney added that he will keep in place Canada's retaliatory tariffs on the United States, but added that if they expand, it will hurt Canadians more than it would pressure the U.S. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre lost his seat in Ottawa, but vowed to remain as leader. Joining us now is Brian Dijkema. He is a public policy analyst and the president at Cardus. Let's talk about how this race played out. Just a few weeks ago, it looked like Poilievre was headed for victory. What changed?
Well, I think what has changed was that the American president started imposing tariffs upon Canada, and one of the most fruitful and the most balanced trade relationship perhaps in history, and also started speaking of Canada as the 51st state. And I think what that did was it shocked a lot of Canadians, and it allowed the Liberal Party to transfer the focus of the election away from its record, which has been severely critiqued, its record of the last 10 years, and onto concerns from Donald Trump and the American state. And I think that fundamentally flipped an election from one that was going to be fought on the record of the Liberal government over the past 10 years to one over stability. And I think many Canadians chose to opt for stability and somebody that they thought was a known commodity over what they were concerned about, which was instability. So I really do think it was a question of an election based on fear and stability versus one of the past record of the current government and what might the alternatives be.
And as we mentioned, Carney seemed to acknowledge that Canada can only go so far with retaliatory tariffs before they start hurting the country. Do you think Carney will be able to make a deal with President Trump?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to acknowledge that President Trump's imposition of tariffs is actually based on a lie. I think it's important to note if he looked at the language he used, he based on an emergency. That is fundamentally untrue. There is no emergency, and therefore it is a breaking of a contract that he himself signed. So I think that's important to note. I think we are going to have to negotiate with the United States, and I think we are going to have to do some work to do that. I think what you noticed, though, in Carney's speech when he said it's over and the trading relationship is over, I don't think it is. I certainly hope it isn't, but I also don't think it is. I think there are lots of reasons to believe that it's not over, but that it has received a fairly significant wound and blow from your president and something that we're going to need to recover from. I do think that it has changed. I think the global liberal order has changed a little bit, but I don't think it's over. And I think that that's what you're hearing there is a little bit of the fear that Carney was banking on to get him into power. I think there's a need for change. There's a need for restructuring, but it's not over. It will be one that's changed and that looks different than it currently does, but it's one that's going to continue and hopefully make both of our countries, and particularly the poor and the working class in both of our countries, more prosperous, as it has done for decades and decades.
Other important issues in Canada include challenges to the fundamental right to life, specifically the expansion of assisted suicide. What is Carney's stance on this issue, and what could these election results mean for the fight for life?
Well, I have great concerns about that. I think Mark Carney's stance is out of step with his professed Catholic faith. Mark Carney professes to be a Catholic, and this is one area that I think he could lean into his faith and lean into doing policy from that, because it aligns not just with his own particular faith, but aligns with reality. And it also aligns with what Canadians want. Many Canadians, in fact, a majority of Canadians, from research that we at Cardus have done with Angus Reid Institute, are deeply concerned about the expansion of euthanasia, the euthanasia regime in Canada, one that we heard even this week has been offered to military veterans, that is increasingly becoming something that's offered to people with disabilities. And I think if the Carney government wants to do something good that is possible, that would be helpful for all Canadians and would actually lead to the culture of care and solidarity that he spoke about during the campaign, he could start by reversing some of the expansions of MAID that we've seen now. Canadians agree with it. They want to see it. and to start reinvesting in things like palliative care and to allow a variety of institutions, including Catholic hospitals like St. Paul's and others, to continue to deliver the care that Canadians want. Most Canadians want to die at home, in comfort, surrounded by their loved ones. Currently, the Canadian medical regime is opting to move more and more towards MAID. It's increasingly becoming a choice for many people. It's one of the fourth leading causes of death here in Canada. And I think if Mr. Carney wants to lead and to lead well as Canada's Prime Minister and build the national solidarity that he spoke so well of and wanted to inculcate throughout the course of his campaign, this would be perhaps the best place for him to start.
Thank you, Brian, for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.